Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Let me be first to introduce myself. My name is George Peacock, and back in 1969, I was chosen by the Ore Village Aeronautical and Space Administration, OVASA, to man the rocket they were sending to the moon. Really, it was quite by chance that while I was down at the Crown Public House in the Old Town, enjoying a noggin or two, that I met members of the Ore Synthesizer Club. They were sitting at one of the corner tables discussing plans for some kind of show about the moon landing. Now, of course, I don't make a habit of eavesdropping, but what I heard prompted me to introduce myself. I treated the boys to a round of drinks and told them about my involvement with the space program based in the northeast Hastings and Fairlight border area. They were very pleasantly surprised to learn that a space rocket had taken off from Hastings in '69. I told them that I believe one of the main reasons why the Ore Village space program, OVASA, was not generally known and was boycotted by the national and local press was because they assumed it was some kind of joke. I am honoured to have been involved in this project by Ore Synthesizer Club, which clearly puts the record straight. It was a wonderful and monumental achievement to land a man on the moon, but this is the peculiar thing. It's not whether something happened or did not happen, but it's only when people start to really believe that's where the truth lies.
The best for Georgie. 4 men's grooming aids, real masculine. Aftershave, hairspray, talc, the lot. 4 brings out the best in a man.
Am I going nuts? Mint in my menthol shave cream? Oh, last night was rougher than I thought. Maybe I am whacked out, but that is mint, and that is my menthol shave cream. Mint! In a menthol! What a wild idea! Whoa, it feels cool like menthol. Smells fresh like mint.
Rapid Shave Menthol Mint. It's a new kind of cool.
Every human who's ever walked the earth has looked up at the moon. The moon to us is very familiar, but it's also very remote. For most of human history, it's been unreachable.
It is said that the moon is 4.6 billion years old.
Every human who's ever walked the earth has looked up at the moon.
Humans have dreamed of traveling there for centuries. In AD 150, Lucien of Samosata wrote about traveling to the moon in a ship carried on a large water spout. When the ship arrived, they found bizarre monsters living there. On the moon, anything was possible. In 1638, Bishop Francis Godwin wrote of an adventurer who trained birds to take him to the moon. He found people twice the size of humans.
For most of human history, it's been unreachable.
In 1900, H.G. Wells envisioned traveling to the moon in a spaceship made of anti-gravitational matter. Over the following decades, mankind foresaw the technology. The mystery and the dangers. That would enable us to reach that fabled destination. On the moon, anything was possible.
For most of human history, it's been unreachable.
Humans have dreamed of traveling there for centuries.
For most of human history, it's been unreachable.
Humans have dreamed of traveling there for centuries. By the end of the 1960s, the dream would become a reality. However, the race to put a man on the moon was not between the Americans and the Soviets, as some people believe, but between NASA, with all the might of the United States behind it, and a lesser-known mission from the Village Aeronautical and Space Administration, based in the northeast Hastings and Fairlight borders area. This is the story of that race.
We are looking into the future. Chances are you'll smoke a cigarette that offers advanced filtration and good taste. But wait, one cigarette does all that today. True filter cigarettes. Great taste and only 12.5 milligrams tar, 0.7 milligrams nicotine. Shouldn't your brand be true today?
The 1960s, when the modern era was formed. A decade many believed was the dawn of a golden age. It was a time for ordinary people to do extraordinary things. A decade many believed was the dawn of a golden age. It was a time for ordinary people to do extraordinary things. Life was so much simpler than today. A sunny optimism permeated everything, and possibilities seemed endless. In 1963, President John F. Kennedy publicly committed the United States to landing a man on the moon by the end of the decade.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
It was a time for ordinary people to do extraordinary things.
Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept. And one we intend to win. And do all this, and do all this, and do it right, and do it first. Before this decade is out, then we must be bold.
For Kennedy, it was imperative that the newly created NASA coordinate resources and manpower to ensure that the United States were first to the moon. By 1968, the Apollo program was well advanced. Apollo 11 was scheduled to launch in July 1969. It was a time for ordinary people to do extraordinary things. At about the same time, nearly 5,000 miles away in the northeast Hastings and Fairlight borders region, Village Aeronautical and Space Administration was incorporated at the annual general meeting of Orr Parish Council. It was a time for ordinary people to do extraordinary things. George Peacock, gentleman carpenter and part-time astronaut, had been chosen to fly OVASA's RX-1 rocket to the moon.
We were young and full of energy back then. The council said, why not? So we decided to fly to the moon and see if we couldn't get there first.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
And we thought, how hard can it be?
The USA was devoting huge amounts of public money to the project. It was imperative that NASA coordinate resources and manpower to ensure that the United States were first to the moon.
Well, we did some sums on the back of a cigarette packet.
Dual for floors. Dual cleans and polishes in one go, because it's a floor cleaner and a polish all in one. Dual, 2 and 6.
On July the 16th, 1969, Apollo 11 is ready on Launch Pad 39A at the Kennedy Space Center, close to Cape Canaveral, Florida. With the Apollo spacecraft on top, the gigantic Saturn V rocket stood 363 feet tall and was 33 feet in diameter. Fully fueled, it weighed 6.5 million pounds. The rocket carried astronauts Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin and Michael Collins. NASA's RX-1 rocket is preparing to launch from an undisclosed field in the northeast Hastings and Fairlight borders region. On board, George Peacock, full-time gentleman carpenter and part-time astronaut, is ready.
RX-1, Fairlight control here. Your go for launch.
Roger, Fairlight control. Nice day for it. Fingers crossed. Off we go.
What's up, Davey?
Nothing's up. There's nobody here but us monkeys.
Make friends with Kool-Aid. Make Kool-Aid with friends. For fruit that never ends. Make friends with Kool-Aid. For fruit that never ends.
Make some Kool-Aid soft drink mix.
You can always use another friend.
CMP on panel 2, disk, you verify program 2. Program 2. Alright, CMP on panel 2, disk, insert verb 75 and do not enter. Verb 75, standing by. All flight controllers, when auto sequence, stand by. Houston, bye,
By mid-morning, both rockets were 10,000 miles away from Earth.
Stand by for 1 Bravo. Mark, 1 Bravo. 1 Bravo.
Shortly after 11 o'clock, the astronauts on both rockets settled themselves in for the journey.
It was a bit bumpy on the way up, as I remember. But once we got through the Van Allen belt, it was a smooth ride.
Alright, flight, how are you? Looks good, flight. GNC? Looks good, flight. Ecom? Looks good, flight. Roger.
So I did the crossword, ate my sandwiches with a flask of tea, and did the football pools.
By lunchtime, due to the superior technology of the Fairlight propulsion system, the Ovasa rocket overtakes Apollo 11.
Well, I just put my foot down.
With the Ovasa rocket in the lead, both spaceships make preparations to orbit the moon.
Can't you take me along?
But honey, it's things. It's just a week.
Be back before you know it. Take me along if you love me. Take me along if you love me. Take me along with you.
I won't be a little cutie, but the office is my duty.
My heart will rise, sweet glorious high above the strong. If you will take me along with you.
If you take your wife along on United, we'll give you up to 1/3 off her fare. Let you charge it with our credit card. And in most cities, you can even get reduced hotel rates on the weekend.
My lips will sing, something jubilant, sweet and clear and strong. you will take me along with you. Fly the friendly skies of United.
The average radius of the Moon's orbit is approximately 240,000 miles, or 1.28 light seconds. On the 19th of July, around 2 o'clock, George Peacock, in Nova's RX-1 rocket, goes into lunar orbit.
I was ahead of schedule and ahead of the Americans.
The Moon is an oblate spheroid, not quite spherical, but flattened at the poles, and is a bit pointy, like a pear. The Moon was once thought to be made of cheese. This theory has been discredited as lunacy. George is so close to the Moon, and can see it, in all its glory.
Well, it looked like a giant celeriac.
George Peacock, in Noveaux' RX-1, starts his powered descent to the surface of the Moon. Some hours later, the Apollo mission begins preparations to separate the lunar module, Eagle, from the command module, Columbia.
Every human who's ever walked the earth has looked up at the moon. The moon to us is very familiar, but it's also very remote. For most of human history, it's been unreachable.
Butlins, the big holiday, where everyone enjoys everything at no extra cost, like the monorail at Butlin Skegness. It's a big holiday for kiddies with free swimming, boating, and games galore, not to mention the big free rides. It's a big holiday for parents too, with freedom to enjoy carefree days and fabulous evenings of entertainment. It's a big holiday for everyone with everything to enjoy at Butlins. And remember, no extras to pay.
At 6 p.m., George Peacock, gentleman carpenter and part-time astronaut, was the first man to land on the moon. As George had forgotten his camera, the only visual record would be a reconstruction, made 50 years later, by our Synthesizer Club, for their 1969 moon landing show.
Fairlight Control, Tranquility Base here. The Seagull has landed.
Roger, Seagull. We copy you down.
I walked all around the Sea of Tranquility. I seem to have a real spring in my step.
Meanwhile, the Americans were preparing to land.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
I walked all around the Sea of Tranquility. Well, I didn't see the Americans up there. In fact, I didn't see anyone at all.
Newts can make a fella late for breakfast. Even Kellogg's cornflakes. Miss Bossy's at it. She says it takes 140 days of sunshine to make cornflakes. When little sisters play it tough, they make a boy's life pretty rough. They natter on till he's had enough and helps himself to sunshine. Go on, eat it up then.
The Americans stayed on the moon for just under 2.5 hours. Two and a half hours. The Apollo astronauts leave the moon and entertain thoughts of home. Two and a half hours. George Peacock had planned to return to Earth at the same time. However, the RX-1 rocket developed unforeseen technical irregularities.
The bloody thing wouldn't start. Would you believe the spark plugs are damp? They took ages to dry out.
From space, the planet is blue. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The Americans prepare for splashdown.
Apollo 11, Houston, through Orion 4.
The Earth is the only world known, so far, to harbor life. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. From space, the planet is blue. From space, the planet is blue. George Peacock, gentleman carpenter and part-time astronaut, is truly alone on the moon.
What better receptacle in which to enjoy your beverage of choice than either or both of these heirloom quality commemorative china mugs? Please note badges also available. Here is our village resident, Tim. You, too, can wave goodbye to fashion hell misery with your very own overseer commemorative garment. Available at the merch stand.
The Apollo 11 astronauts received a big, exciting welcome home today from Americans in New York and in Chicago.
To see the Earth as it truly is, small and blue and beautiful, in that eternal silence where it floats, is to see ourselves as riders on the Earth together. to see ourselves as riders on the earth together. On the earth together. On the earth together. While the world celebrated NASA's achievement, George was still on the moon, waiting for his spark plugs to dry out.
By the time I got home, everyone thought the Americans had won the race, and nobody was interested in me. Well, the Americans were back first, and everyone made a tremendous fuss.
As part of the celebrations, the NASA astronauts flew to Britain.
Oh, hello.
To see ourselves as riders on the earth together. At the same time, George Peacock returned from the moon in the RX-1.
I splashed down off Camber Sands and one of the fishing boats picked me up. Yes, I was the first man on the moon, but it didn't worry me. I took the family to the old King John for a drink and I was back at work on Monday. We showed that you don't need the resources of an entire continent to do great things. You don't need the might of a military-industrial complex to succeed.
Here, men, from the planet Earth, first set foot upon the moon, July 1969, AD. It came in peace for all mankind.
We 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 came in peace for all
We came in
mankind.
peace for all mankind.
For all mankind.
We came in peace for all mankind.
We came in peace for all mankind.
Or Synthesizer Club dedicate this evening's performance to the men and women of NASA who put the Americans on the moon and returned them safely to Earth. To the tireless efforts of George Peacock and everyone at OVASA whose work has gone unrecognized until this evening. To all explorers and adventurers, past, present and future, and to all their endeavors, real and imagined. Tra-la-la. Fly me to the moon. Let me play among the stars. Let me see what spring is like on Jupiter and Mars. In other words, hold my hand. In other words, baby, kiss me. Fill my heart with song, and let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Fill my heart with song. Let me sing forevermore. You are all I long for, all I worship and adore. In other words, please be true. In other words, I love you. Thank you so much for coming to the show.
As true as my name's George Peacock, that was all true.